Do you like interactive cards, or are you looking for ideas to make your cards extra special? Stay with me and I'll show you how I made these three ideas with two variations on each. And it's a long video, but stick with me because there's a lot that I want to share with you. It's been a while since I posted, so I'm trying something different on this video, and I would love your feedback at the end. Let me know if it works or how it works better for you. These are the 6 cards we're gonna create, and for the first one, we're just gonna split a page of cardstock. You can do it horizontally or vertically, however you prefer. So for this one, it has a slider mechanism, and all you need to do is get a rectangular die or a craft knife and cut out a rectangle, but we want to cut only 3 sides of that rectangle. So what I'm doing is I'm placing my cutting plate covering just the 3 sides that I want, except for the top one. And the top one we're gonna score there instead later. So as you can see here, you're gonna have the 3 sides cut for you, or you can use a craft knife and do it. I didn't bring my craft knife apparently when I moved, so I couldn't show you doing it myself. But I'm gonna use my empty pen and score that top line. And then I'm gonna score just an edge from the side that is open. I didn't really measure it. I just eyeballed it, but I think that maybe 1/4 of an inch, or yeah, probably 1/4 would be enough. And then you measure the distance in between the top line, the one that you just drew, and score it in half. I'm gonna have these 3 lines folded like this, and it kind of looks like a bit of a zigzag. What I did was I measured the size of the center element, and I cut a piece that was slightly wider, like maybe 1/4 of an inch or an eighth of an inch, and way longer than that. You can cut the excess of the height, the length later if it doesn't suit you. And the bit that you made wider, you just want a little bit coming past each side, and that should be okay. So you line it up with that smaller tab, glue it down. I'm trying to use dry adhesive because it's faster. And then I'm putting foam adhesive to all 3 sides. Remember not to put it on top, the one that is longer. I am using a bit of anti-static powder so the exposed adhesive won't stick to the card. And here I'm finding the center point, and I'm just gonna cut a notch to make it easier to pull that tab. I'll show you how I made 2 versions of this card. Here I'm just folding a card base that I'm gonna glue to the back. This one I made it all in white, but remember that you can change and use all the colors you want. If you want to add color behind your sliding mechanism, you would do this before gluing here, before this part that I'm showing you now. So here I'm just removing the protective side of that double-sided foam adhesive and sticking it down. Mine, I cut the foam way too wide. You do want to leave like a little bit of space so the mechanism can move freely. Mine is getting stuck a little bit, but it still works. It was a mistake. I'll correct it on the second one. And here I'm just gonna add a pull here sentiment to the top of that tab, and I'm gonna cut it off because I think it's too long. So I don't really have measurements to give to you. This is something that you don't really need measurements, exact measurements to make this card. You also don't need specific dies. As I said, you can use the craft knife instead of a die. You could also make this the pull-up tab in a different shape if you want to. Take a look at your stash and use what you have. That's what I always say. And then this is my second one. I used a very light pool color on this one, and I'm gonna ink blend some clouds on my card base. And this card base is what we'll show once we pull the tab. So you could add any color, you could add more drawings here, more stamped images, a sentiment, a hidden sentiment if you want to. But I just ink blended some clouds to make it a little bit different from the first one. Once again, I'm just removing the back protective side of the double-sided foam adhesive, and I'm gluing it down, lining it up, and you can just pull the tab and it's ready. So here are the two that I made side by side. Again, these videos are very long, there's a lot of information, so if you slow it down, you'll be able to see it in more detail. Here I'm just die cutting a panel that is the exact same size of the rectangular die that I use for both cards so far. I'm gonna use for the next four. And I'm just going to decorate this panel and glue it to my sliding mechanism. So here I'm choosing the elements I want. I'm just using whatever I had in my stash. I didn't make anything specific for this one card. I just went through and found what I had and I made it work for me. So I'm gonna use a rainbow. If you go back onto my videos, you see the ones that I made with clouds and rainbows, and I made many rainbows and I'm just using one here. And that sentiment is an old Spellbinder sentiment. I've had it for a good while and I thought I might as well just use it, right? I'm just gluing everything down. I'm gonna add some sequins, add some gold strips to the top and bottom of this panel where it's going to be. And that's my whole design there. So I'm cutting down some gold mirror cardstock. I did measure once again, I eyeballed it. Sorry that my hair keeps getting in the way. My setup is not fully set at the moment. I am trying to figure out how I'm going to work in the new space that I have at the moment, organize my things, buying furniture, you know. I actually have no idea what I have in my stash at the moment. So that's why it's taking me forever to get a new video. So all I did was I added a golden strip to where the folding lip is on our mechanism, and then I added a top one to match on the top of the panel that I die cut. I am not showing this here, but under that sliding mechanism, you could hide a gift card or write a secret message or stamp something else, like I said before, and make it your own. You could also gift some money if that's what you're going to give to someone. And I'm just adding a put here sentiment, and the card is ready. Remember that the card base, you can do it top folding or side folding. I chose top folding for both of them because I think it looks better on display, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, so for this one, I chose a sentiment and some leaves that I wanted to add. I am using Easy C tape to keep them together because then I can hold them as a one element. I'm adding glue in between where the sentiment overlaps the leaves, just tiny dots, and I'm gonna give it a minute or two to dry, and then I can move this whole thing as one element instead of three pieces of a sentiment and one piece of a leaf. Each one has 3 layers. I cut 2 layers in just white cardstock, and then the top layer is the one with the color. So for the sentiment I used gold, for the leaves I used green, and I colored it with Copic markers. Here I just marked where the center point of the sliding mechanism is, and I'm gonna add glue only to the bottom half. I didn't show this on the previous card where I did the same thing. So you only want to add glue to whatever section of your element is overlapping those two bottom lines. So the center line and the one that you drew that's kind of a 1/4 inch. Don't put glue anywhere else or anything else. And if you do it this way, when you pull the tab, half of your element will be floating up and the bottom half will be stuck to the sliding mechanism. Then our two ideas are these: either you use a big element to decorate the sliding mechanism or a panel, and you stick anything you want to the panel. For this one, you can add half an inch or 2 centimeters to one orientation. If your card base is 5.5 by 4.25, then you would use 4.25 by 6, in my case here, the ones I'm showing you on screen. And then we would score either half a centimeter and 1 centimeter from each side, or 1/8 and 1/4 from each side. So you can choose to use either centimeters or inches, whatever you feel more comfortable with using, but make sure that you choose only one of those measurements and stick with it from beginning to end. And then here I'm just folding them. For the bottom one, I am not going to fold both sides because I am going to run it through I actually am going to ink blend it on the back, and it's easier if it's flat. So you could do all of your cutting and ink blending before folding. That would make your life easier, to be honest. But you can just score and fold later. I forgot to score my next one, and you see me struggling a little bit, but it's not that bad. You can also increase these measurements. Just make sure that you make it proportional. So you could do 1 inch and score every fourth of an inch, and it would turn out the same. It would work the same way. So I'm die cutting fully that rectangular window this time, and I am going to use a panel that is just a card size panel, and I am going to place my die back in. I lined it up from the back. I used some Easy C tape again to hold it in place. I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. I'll remove that top panel that I did before and run it through again to make sure that it's gonna cut. It's too thick for it to cut in my machine. Maybe yours is newer and better condition and it will cut no problem, but mine didn't go through. So I'm just gonna run it through again. You can just fit the die into place. It slots right in, and then you're going to have a frame that is exactly the same size and position of your panel. And then you can line them up, and that will reinforce your front window. This is a shadow box card, and this idea I've seen many times with Jennifer Maguire. If you don't know her yet, please follow her. She has amazing, beautiful ideas on how to decorate them and other ways to create these cards, and I love them. They're very, very unique, and they look very nice at the end. So I ink blended some clouds, turned my stencil upside down, and added some more glue to make it kind of the ocean. I don't like the result, but most of it will be covered by die cuts. And here I use some white die cuts from cloud dies to pretend that they are waves. That's also an idea I saw on a video from Jennifer Maguire. And I'm gonna add them just to the side because the center of my panel will be covered by other die cuts. As you know, my cards are die cut heavy, but you could just use stamped images instead. Here, I'm just gluing down my window to the front to reinforce it. If you use very heavyweight cardstock, you might not need to do this. Just see if it looks flimsy, if it feels firm, or if you need the extra layer. Then I'm just gonna add my elements. To decorate this card, you can add any elements you have. I had this set from Spellbinders that I hadn't used, and that I absolutely love, and I thought it would work nice. But this sleeve is actually from an Alta New die set, and the sun is just a circle. I am going to add a little bit of yellow ink blending as well to work as the reflection from the sun. And here I forgot my 18th inch square tape, so I am just using glue and putting my reverse tweezers to hold it in place until the glue dries. If you do have a slimmer adhesive, use that instead. It will make your life way easier, so you don't have to hold it in place until it dries. And then I'm just gluing my elements. Remember that you can use your stamped and colored images. They're gorgeous. It's just that I don't have much patience for coloring. I am lazy, a lazy crafter. this is it. This is the whole card. I am going to add a panel, a card base to the back of it so it can stand. It doesn't really need it to stand, but just so whoever the person sending it actually will have more room to write their message. This one, I made it portrait landscape, sorry, orientation. The next one will make it portrait, but the idea is the same. Just remember to add half an inch or 2 centimeters to the direction that you need to score. And that's it. If you don't know yet, the reason I haven't been posting, that I moved houses, I moved countries, and I moved continents. So I'm trying to get my stuff set up to go back to posting videos regularly. Please bear with me. One of the things that I would love your feedback on this video. I am going to try to work on improving the light and the setup and the camera and everything. I know it's a bit shaky and my head is getting in the way all the time, but I'm going to try to correct this for the next ones. It's just going to take a little bit of time. But what I would love to hear from you is if you prefer one long video with several ideas like this one, or if you want a shorter video that has one idea with a few variations, which one is better for you? I could also make a big one like this and split it into smaller ones so it's easy to get back to. Just let me know, please. I would really appreciate it. Okay, for this one, I added the same measurements that I put on the screen in the beginning of the section. And now I'm just going to forget to score and fold. And I'm going to add clouds again to my background and die cut the window out of the front panel. I am going to double up that frame once again like I did on the first one, so I'm not going to show you everything again in detail, because if you watch the previous card, you will understand what I am doing here. So I am trying to score and I'm finding it very hard and difficult but to fold actually, but it's because I forgot to score this one. It works in the end. It's just a bit icky. Not icky, like it's a bit hard. Don't forget like me. Do as I say, not as I do, right? For those of you who asked about my mom, we actually had some good news. The doctor suspended her medication for a little bit, for a month, and she'll go back in a few weeks and should have to do her exams again. But he seems very happy with her results and everything else. She has other underlying health issues that she's still keeping an eye on, but the doctor seemed overall pretty happy. Thank you for your prayers and your well wishes and for asking about her. I really appreciate your support and your messages and your time that you spend with me. Being here with them, it's really, really healing me from some traumas, and it's been so great and so helpful. I am so beyond thankful for being here and for all of you as well. I can share a few pictures of where I am. It's a beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous, luscious in terms of nature place, and it's very well hidden. No one really knows it's a tiny town in the middle of nowhere, and it's where I grew up, and I love it here. So spending time with my whole family is being absolutely awesome for me. If you have a chance to spend time with your loved ones, the people who heal your soul, I can't recommend it enough. I know it's hard and we can't always do it, but if you have a chance, go for it. Okay, so once again, I am prepping those two panels, right? The back one and the front one, they're gonna be my shadow box. And I am decorating them differently. So you have those two plans, and you can also use, I didn't use on any of these two cards, but you can use acetate strips in between, and you will have a third floating layer that you can also add dimension and other elements. I am just adding these two branches to the front. I'm gonna start with one leaf on each section of those tiny branches. but then I'm going to add 3 to each one by the end. I'm not going to show you each one of them, but I am gluing the tip of the leaves from the back of my branch, and then it looks okay. It looks better to me, in my opinion, than sticking it from the front. I had some birds that I die cut. These are all spellbinders, all the die cut elements except for the sentiment. And I'm just gonna spread them around, and it's a very simple and easy card to make. You can just add your message to the back. Once again, this one, I believe I didn't even add the card base to the back yet. You could just write your message on the back, but I will probably add the card base later. And that card base, I try to always reinforce the back. I don't always show and I don't always mention it, but I find that if you make the front very heavy and sturdy, it kind of unbalances it. If you make the back flimsy, I don't know, it bothers me. So I try to balance it out, and I will layer it up. These are the two from the shadow box ideas. So we have them portrait and landscape. And on to the next ones. For our third and final idea, we are going to need one full sheet of cardstock and a bit more for each card. And I am going to show you portrait and landscape orientations once again. Just cut a sheet of cardstock in half, and we are going to use the first piece for our outside panel. So you're going to score and fold at the halfway point. It doesn't matter what the orientation is. For the outside one, you're gonna do the same thing. And then we're just gonna cut off 1/4 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters from one end of this outer panel. So again, choose to work either with centimeters or inches. Don't mix up both of them, because then it's gonna go wrong. They are not equivalent. For both of these cards, I just measured with a ruler and then I cut it with scissors, but you could just use your paper trimmer or your guillotine and get rid of that 1/4 of an inch. I'm showing you here on the screen how I score, and I can see very well in person. I'm just gonna cut it off, put it to the side, and work on my next half of our cardstock sheet. So for this one, you just need to fold. Again, it's either 1/4 of an inch or 1.5 centimeters. And you're gonna fold, mark that once, then find your halfway point, and once again, 1.5 centimeters or 1/4 of an inch after that. We're going to score all those lines, and then we're going to fold it, and it's gonna look kind of like the outer layer of a matchbox for me. I'll show you here in a second. So that half point, you don't even need to scar, you can just fold it straight. Then you just need to remember the edge, the 1/2 inch fold at the beginning and after your halfway point. And then we need 2 panels. They need to be cut 1/2 centimeter or 1/4 of an inch shorter on the longer side. And then we'll score 1/2 centimeter or 1/8 of an inch from each side, from each end on that longer length, if that makes sense. And then we're gonna fold and score those tabs on each side and for both panels. And you're going to have these panels that you can layer and make it into a tunnel card. Tunnel card is also an idea that it's very common on the internet, and it gives you a lot of dimension when you open your card. You can add any elements to decorate the inside of it. These 2 cards, I'm decorating them with flowers. So flowers like flower die cuts and washi tape. You just need some dies with different sizes, like the rectangular ones there I'm showing here. And you're gonna cut the biggest one from the inner element, from your inner panel. Then I am layering one of those other smaller panels, the fold with the fold from the top ones. I'm going to hold them with Easy C tape, turn it around, place my medium size die inside the window, try to center it, And then I'm going to run it through, remove the adhesive that I put in the back, and run it through my die cutting machine to cut the window that is smaller. And then align this panel with the smaller panel with the tabs, and put the smallest of my three rectangular dies. And then we'll have one size of rectangle from each one of those layers, if that makes sense. And here I'm just showing you how I'm going to layer them. The smallest one will go all the way, it will go first, basically. I'm going to add some glue just to that tiny tab that we folded before. I'll put it up right against the fold inside of my card, that half an inch that we added, actually, yes, half an inch that we added on the inside. And then I'm gonna fold it down, and that's gonna pick up my first layer. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the second layer. So I'm just adding glue to the very narrow tab, and I will put it up against as close as I can to the first one that is now folded, and then fold my inner mechanism, my inner window. It will pick it up, that tab, and they will fold flat perfectly. You just need to wait a little bit for that glue to dry, or use the dry adhesive. As I said before, I don't have my narrow one. Now, I'm going to make a few mistakes here, but it's good that I'll show you how I fix them. I am stamping the sentiment to the inner window, but I didn't realize that I have the opening to the wrong side. Once I finished stamping it, I noticed that my stamp was actually upside down. So I just stamped it on another panel, glued it to the inside, and no one will know that I made a mistake. It will make it sturdier, it will make it stronger. It's not a big deal. But yeah, this one I stamped it upside down, and I'm gonna make a different mistake on the next one. uh, I did add some scrap paper to the border to make sure that I wasn't going to transfer any inch. Here I have my outer panel, and the side that I have that half an inch shorter on the back is the place that I'm adding the glue, and then I'm adding the inner mechanism. Now I'm going to add glue to all of those narrow tabs, and then I'm going to fold everything to the right here. So I'm moving all my layers to the right, and then I'm bending the top outside section to it, and everything will fold like a box. I'm adding an extra layer to my outer and top tab, just to make it sturdier again, just to balance it out, because it has so many layers in the back. And then you can just decorate it as much as you want. This one has actually 4 layers, 4 different planes that you can add elements to. I added just some flowers and some leaves, and they are very flat. They are die cut, but they are very flat. I'm going to add also some sequins that are extremely flat, so I don't add any extra dimension to the inside of this card. But you could use a little bit of dimension. I just think you don't want to add like foam tape and dimensional jewels, because it will kind of mark the other layers of your card. So you can use as much dimension as you want to the outside, but to the inside, I would avoid if possible. Again, I am adding a sentiment to the inside and a different one to the outside of this card. You could write on the inside of that left tab, or you can add another card base to the back if you want to have some extra space to write your message. The other thing that you can do is I added 2 layers to the inside tunnel of this card, but you could add only 1 layer if you don't have that many elements to glue inside and you don't want all that dimension. it doesn't matter. It's the same procedure. You're just going to need one layer instead of the two, and one smaller die instead of the two smaller ones. That's it. So here's the final result for this one. I also added some butterflies. For the outside, I am just going to add a sentiment and some of those flowers and leaves to kind of frame it. I did add a bit of foam behind the panel, and this is a panel that I die cut from those inner layers. I'm just reutilizing it and getting some more use out of it, I guess. This one has false stitching on the outer edge, on the outer border. And this one I could add like a pearl or some jewels to the inside of my flowers. On the outside, you can add as much dimension as you want to. It's not a big deal, but it is a very beefy, meaty card. It's very cardstock heavy, and I that's why I didn't add extra dimension to the inside. Also, that would leave marks on the other layers. I am biased, but I really like how it turned out. I really like the results, and they are very easy to make. It just needs some extra cardstock, but it will make a card super special. Whoever gets this one will love how it looks once they open it, and it stands upright on your mantle very nicely. For our last card, we're going to start with the cardstock on a different orientation. Again, we're going to fold in half our card base, cut off either 1.5 centimeters or half an inch from one end, put it to the side, get the other half, and we'll find the same measurements. So it's halfway point, a fold, and then we fold and score half an inch tab or 1.5 centimeters from the beginning and after the middle point fold. For this one, I'm finally changing my dies and I'm using some oval ones. Just a reminder that you could have your windows in any shape or size that you want. You just don't want your border around the die cut to be too thin, too slim, because it will be kind of flappy. But you could reinforce it like we did before on the previous cards. So here I'm just trying to do that stamped sentiment on the inside once again, and once again I'm gonna mess it up. I did get the orientation correct this time. I am cleaning my plate to make sure that no ink will transfer somewhere I don't want it to go, but then I will forget to give some time for the ink to dry, and I'm gonna smudge it. Because why not, right? But as I showed you before, all you need to do is cut another panel, stamp it again, very centered, and glue it, and no one will be able to tell. For this one, I'm using just one smaller layer instead of the two that we used on the previous card. And it's exactly the same thing. Add glue to that tab, pick it up with the other side, and I'm just like reinforcing it here using my bone folder. And now I'm showing you the smudged sentiment, and I'll do it again. And that would just reinforce the back of the card. It's not a big deal. But if you can do it without, it means that your card will be lighter and it's easier to mail. Even though both of them flatten very nicely, actually all of them flat very nicely when you want to put it in your envelope. The lighter it is, the less you're going to spend on postage. Now I'm just gluing the smaller tab to the bigger tab and adding glue to my shorter side of that outer layer, and then I'm gonna just layer them up and it's ready to get decorated. This one I used some washi tape from Pink Fresh Studio. It's some very old washi tape I have, but I love the colors. I love the yellow and kind of purplish blue. I am adding a tiny frame to that bigger oval that is on my first layer. I'm gonna spread those die cuts those washi tape die cuts to the different layers, to the different levels that I have on the inside. Also decorate the corners on my front, add a sentiment, and call it a day. Actually, you can also add some sequins or jewels on the outside, like I said before. Where usually we try to keep the outside a little bit more simple because the big surprise is on the inside of this card. I am sorry if the video is way too long. Please let me know. I am happy to edit it again, make shorter videos. I could make three shorter videos out of this one and separate the three different card designs. I would love and appreciate your feedback. If you tell me what you prefer, I'm happy to do it. And I hope this is useful for you. Happy crafting.